Then there is Revenged Love. Revenged Love is one of those series where I think I could keep talking about it without ever stopping, but then again that doesn't take much for me. I'd categorize it right into shifted the course of my life. Now the reason why I revealed this first is because I think there's an argument to be had and to address when it comes to this type of series. Revenged Love, much like similar series, unfortunately suffer from the perception that because it's satirical and goofy, that it's actually nonsensical in terms of its writing or story value. So you're more likely to hear people admit they enjoyed it, but they might still undermine it by agreeing with others that it's actually lacking, despite their own emotional engagement with it. What I mean by this is that people will tend to look at a story based on its tone, and if it's more lighthearted or comedic, it's often watered down to being less profound or less worth the analysis. In my eyes, that's far from the truth. It's more dependent on what exactly is being communicated in the story and what the series itself is doing, even regardless of the creator's intent. Because the end result will always produce something that can come across differently than intended, and that can be interpreted in a multitude of ways. Revenged Love neatly conceals itself behind the mask of nonsense, whilst actively centering its entire story around the nuance of manipulation and the confrontation with normativity. For instance, think about how much the characters talk about strategy and manipulation in terms of intellect and also as a endless, ever-evolving game that they are all a part of at all times. What's interesting about this is that it feels as though the series itself is specifically using this to portray human psychology and interactions as always rooted in some degree of strategy or manipulation, but also seems to argue or comment on how that's not inherently negative and that the series seems to show that it is core to how we function and what each interaction therefore signals about our intentions. Let me go further. Revenged Love is about a boy, Woo So-wei, who is in a slump and wants to introduce his girlfriend to his mom, but his girlfriend ends up breaking up with him, saying that he is poor and therefore undesirable in society. And she ends up leaving to try to get together with a rich and handsome guy, Chi Cheng, who on the other hand is seen as desirable in society. Woo So-wei not only experiences a humiliating breakup where he's insulted for his background, current looks and lifestyle, he's also oppressed at work, and his original name literally means someone who will stay poor forever. As a result, Woo So-wei decides to change his name, which literally means whatever doesn't matter, as though to signal that his name and by extension his identity can now become anything, and takes a different path. He intends on getting revenge, but in an unusual way. He intends on seducing Chi Cheng, the very guy his ex-girlfriend is after. And this is the premise of the story. So the premise itself promises absurdity, and meaningfully so, dare I say. In this way, the story already establishes something rather symbolically with its expressive characters with just this alone, which is that normativity in society wears people down, just like Woo So-wei, where it's his journey towards exploring his queerness and his own true personality that will become key to freedom. That is why we see how in the beginning societal expectations weighed on him, needing to find a wife, needing to be financially well off as a man, all whilst experiencing and putting up with workplace abuse. On the other hand, his pursuit of Chi Cheng is a slow curve towards seeing what it feels like for the first time to be genuinely taken care of and not used outside of gender roles, as before he was expected to provide and now he isn't. It's a way for him to see what it's like to be seen as a person rather than a societal caricature, and as a way for him to use his potential, such as using his own capabilities and strategy, which is made as a point later as he continues strategizing even after his revenge plot is dealt with. And lastly, by how Wu Souwei steadily accepts his feelings for teaching, which altogether step out of the so-called straight identity that was tied and imposed on him. This is to say that satire, like revenge love, exaggerates and uses absurdity to make a point, and this is what, in my eyes, revenge love does a lot, and quite effectively. In fact, I feel that the way revenge love managed to keep people watching eagerly, even people that didn't necessarily like the base story other than for its entertainment factor, is because through satire, revenge love touches on norms directly and wittily in an era where a lot of stories either actively try to avoid them or embed norms in their own story without addressing them much. Revenge love not only points at norms, they reveal the absurdity of norms by toying with them, and that for any viewer, whether consciously or subconsciously, can feel freeing or make one laugh refreshingly because of this root base. Take for example the scene in which Wu Souwei looks up whether his sexuality can be changed. A lot of shows would avoid something like that because of the potential controversial nature, but revenge love confronts the idea and then makes the viewer realize, through facing it directly and through the absurdity of it, why the logic of that norm is in itself absurd or flawed. The effect of it is actively relieving because it's not afraid to call things out by name and then play with them to the extent that we see the flaws and can transcend them thereafter, just like Wu Souwei managed to ultimately transcend the life he might have been forced to lead if he hadn't confronted the logic of sexuality that he subverted at the start and going forward.